This episode is brought to you by CBS. DMV is a brand new workplace comedy turning misery into magic and chaos into comedy. Starring Harriet Dyer and Tim Meadows, DMV is here to serve you laughs. Watch Mondays at 8:30, 7:30 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. I'm Mark Pfeffer. My guest today is Cliff Jurkiewicz, the Vice President of Global Strategy for Phenom. Video assessments is our topic. We'll get into what they are, their impact on the user experience, and more on this edition of People Tech. Hey Cliff, welcome. I've been hearing more recruiters and talent acquisition folks talking about video assessments a lot lately, that they're using those assessments more than they're using phone screening, or at least things are heading in that direction. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. I mean, we at Phenom have seen that shift as well. I think for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think the candidate audience, whether it's an external candidate or even an internal employee, are used to video as a medium. It's become more ubiquitous in the everyday life in what we do. Certainly through the pandemic, video is something that was made readily available by organizations as a way for employees to connect and communicate. And certainly in recruiting, it was a way for recruiters to then, connect with candidates in a way that makes a lot more sense. In terms of the assessment piece, again, what we're finding is that video allows the individual candidate to be more of a whole representative of themselves, who they are, the environment that they're in. You can see things like facial expressions and body language. We're not assessing those things, but it's almost like you're in that interview. I think what we have found is that candidates are more comfortable simply talking about their answers versus sitting on a phone in a very impersonal assessment and providing answers. They're not able to really represent their full selves. They're being restricted to whatever categorically those responses are. So this gives them a chance to let their personality come out a little bit and the culture of who they are in those video assessments. And usually they're relatively short, at least what we recommend or what we're using. And because of the expediency of it, asking 3 to 5 questions, being able to get a response within about 5 minutes to all of that, submitted and done, versus what we see with a lot of assessments, which are anywhere between 30 minutes and 45 minutes of their time sitting on a device, and again, feeling like they're not really connected to the recruiting audience or to the employer.
Now, for those who aren't completely sure about what we're talking about, what's the difference between a video assessment and a video interview?
Sure. Video assessment is really being able to ask the similar types of assessment questions that you might see in a more written or online assessment. It could be behavioral. It could be technical. It could even be cultural. There's actually no good tools for cultural assessment. So each of these different categories provides an opportunity to have a more focused conversation or response from the candidate, to very specific things that the organization might be looking for. An interview is going to be a lot more structured in the sense of a very traditional, tell me, what you'd like to be doing in 5 years and tell me a little bit more about your experience. And then I think the dynamic nature of an interview is that it can go off in a number of directions based on a person's responses. The video assessment is really meant to be categorical in that sense. Give them the framework, give them just a few questions, ask them one at a time, see the responses, and be able to make, a judgment on those responses, and then, be able to move on in the process. So it is it's less dynamic in terms of there's no interaction from the recruiter or hiring manager for the video assessment. It's allowing that person to really get on camera and be themselves, respond to the few questions that you've got, submit that, and then that's evaluated for its content, for the character of the person and the content that they're providing, in the sense that to be able to make a judgment whether they want to move through the next step.
Can you take me through how these work? I mean, what for the candidate, what's the session like?
Sure. In our platforms, I can speak to our platform, not how others do it in that sense. But generally speaking, we will set up one of two things: either an automation, they're going through, the candidate might come to a career site, be matched to meaningful work. So they've got one or a few job matches, select the one that really resonates with them. Potentially answer a couple of quick screening questions to screen them in to say, this is really what this is about. Answer those positively. So there's an automation in the background that says, this person could be a really good fit. Why don't we send them an invitation for a video assessment? So this is a system making a decision based on a workflow that's been set up by the recruiter. Now, the recruiter may also choose to do the human intervention at that point, say, I want to review some of those responses before we invite them to the video assessment. So it can be automated or it can be, human triggered, which is fine. But a lot of these are automated because it's meant to inspire somebody to engage and nurture them through the process. So they'll be sent usually a link, or if they're, say, working in our chatbot, for example, they may get an instant response to the chatbot. Hey, you look like a really great fit for this role. Would you like to take a video assessment? It's worth noting that some people that may be not ready to be on video, we offer an audio only version of that, so they could just submit with no video. We want to make sure that we are considering, people that may not be comfortable, persons with disabilities that may need a screen reader or other things. So we consider each of those experiences in what we offer, but there's always a way to capture their responses, whether it's it's a text reader if you're a person with a disability and you need help with that, or it's the video and somebody accepts that, great. But they're all treated equally in terms of the weight of that information that's submitted. So that is an automated response. In most cases can be manually triggered. They'll get that link, they click the link. If they're on a desktop, mobile, tablet, doesn't matter what device, as long as it's a modern device in the last 5 to 7 years, they will be able to essentially see the questions. So they'll click the yes, I'd love to take the assessment. We'll talk about the no in a minute. Yes, I'd love to take the assessment. They get the link, click that link, open it up. They'll see the 3 to 5 questions. Here's what we're going to ask you. When you're ready, when you're in your mind, you've thought through what your responses are, click this button and we're going to record you. You have an opportunity to stop the recording and always start over, right? Those things are certainly possible. We want people to be their best selves and feel comfortable. So we record the response. They are usually time limited, right? So we want to make sure that people know that this is 5 minutes of your time, or less. Some of our video assessments are as little as it's one question and it's a minute that you get to do it. And so, whatever the time limit is, they'll see a timer, it's running. They want to stop it, start over, they can do that, delete the recording. But when they feel comfortable, they've got something solid, they're clicking that record, then clicking a submission, they'll get an automated response, thank you. Usually that automated response will include, here's what your next step is, because we want to remove the black hole, right? That you feel in recruiting. I submit an application or I submit something to a prospective employer and I have no idea where it stands. So we're going to say, your next step is that, this recruiter is going to review this information. It's going to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. But if you have questions in the meantime, here's some more information about the team, about the role, a day in the life. So this is another opportunity for us to nurture and engage them while they wait for a next step or a response. So should they choose that they don't want to do it, right? Then we give them the opportunity, would you like to submit something in a written form, right? So we always, somebody that's just not comfortable with technology, and again, it will hold the same weight. They'll get a link, submit this, to the recruiter. It's all done in an automated fashion and stored in the CRM and then fed to the recruiter and the hiring manager for review and evaluation. So there's a bunch of alternates in there. There's some sort of escape hatches for those that may want a slightly different experience, but always give them the opportunity to use a medium that they're going to be comfortable with. And that's why we call usually these assessments, these video assessments are done in an omni-channel format. So video isn't always the best, but we will default to another method should they not feel comfortable with that.
I'm curious, what's your definition of assessment?
Yeah, so my individual definition of assessment is going to vary. Here's what I would say. It's really going to be role dependent. But if we're talking about most roles, what we're seeing in what I would want to see assessed, and what I see a lot of the clients that I work with, this is really an opportunity to think about cultural fit, right? So we're assessing, attitude and aptitude. We're assessing, did you do homework on the role? Do you understand what it is that you're going to be asked to do, what we're asking of you? But the other piece of it is an assessing of the organization, right? You've also got to give the candidate the opportunity to say, I've looked at you, here's what I know about you, or here's what I think about the role, and can you validate for me, in a next step, if I'm on point with that. So to me, I see assessments as a two-way street. It's just starting with the conversation of the candidate, because the employer is the one that holds the work. The candidate is the one that's looking for meaningful work. So we're asking them first, hey, how do you fit in here? And what are you looking for? I think attitude and aptitude are the two primary attributes of an assessment that I would be looking for. Of course, there are technical assessments and things like that. An assessment could revolve around, tell me about the last project you worked on. We see this a lot with engineers. Tell me about the last project you worked on, the project methodology, the communication method, and how you managed to be successful. Or if you weren't, if the project wasn't, tell me what recommendations you might make in the future for that project manager. So there are things that you can ask. Again, you're judging attitude and aptitude more than anything else, I would think.
Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, the podcast that asks you what you want to be when you grow up so you can graduate into retirement with a purpose and a passion, whether you're 25, 85, or any age in between. Gain actionable financial and mindset tips from your favorite authors, podcasters, and influencers to help you reach that exciting next chapter. Listen now and start building your path to financial freedom and reframing what retirement can mean to you. This is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate.
It's an automated system, and I'm wondering what its impact on the candidate experience is. I mean, does this put a distance between a new candidate and the employer, or does it wrap in nicely somehow?
Now, I think it does wrap in nicely, because if you look at consumer experiences, which is what we've modeled our particular platform on, and I think a lot, the industry is looking at that and saying, let's look at that because it's so successful. There is an expectation that through at least the beginning part of that process, make it as quick and engaging as possible. Don't redirect me to a bunch of different systems, and don't waste my time. Show me the value in what you're doing. And you can demonstrate value through speed and efficiency. And candidates tend to like that. They want to know that they've taken that next step in the process very quickly. They've had an opportunity to submit something beyond an application, and be able to demonstrate some of their personality, some of what makes them who they are. And so they really welcome that. And there's no reason to put a barrier in front of that. In terms of if you think about, we'll use the online shopping experience. Nobody knows what distribution center your product is coming from. Nobody cares. Just let me know that it's coming. So again, this expectation of expediency. There's no reason to have this step in the process of, the recruiter reviewing things, unless it's what we call a more of a knowledge work, highly skilled role where they may want to customize the questions that get asked to somebody in a different way. But that's rare. Most of it can be automated because there's an expectation. I've submitted an app. I've answered your screening questions. You're saying I'm qualified. Why not just send me the assessment, and I'll just get it done. And in the 5 minutes that I have. So if you can have an application process that is 2 to 3 minutes, have a screening process that's a minute or less, have a video assessment that happens within 5 minutes and can be submitted based on their comfort level with submitting it that quickly. They might take a few more minutes, but that's okay. But you're talking about a whole experience that in less than 15 minutes, I not only submitted some hard copy information, my CV, my resume, but I've also had that opportunity by video, by voice, or by other means, to demonstrate, a little bit more of my whole self. People jump at the chance to do that. Why wait? You've got them captured. They want to do it. Give them the opportunity.
What do managers think of all of this? And, does it make the process more difficult for them, or more complicated, or more convenient?
I think more convenient is the goal, right? So what we hear from hiring managers is, please don't make me log into another system and manage this process. Just put in front of me what's important to me, which is a list of my candidates or applicants, leads, whatever it may be. Give me the information I need, the CV information. The video assessment is a really great way to tie the personality to the person on paper, right? So personality to paper, and gives them that chance to maybe prepare a little bit better if they want to move forward with that person, because they're not only reading about the person, but they're listening and they're seeing them potentially, but at least listening to them, and can respond in a way that's, again, is more personal. The value here is the hyper personalization for both parties, for the candidate and the hiring manager. If you think back, even 10 years ago, when we didn't have the digitization of all of this different information, hiring managers were assessing based on, just the resume or just the submitted information, whatever that was emailed at the time. Now they get an opportunity to potentially see the person and or hear them, or read about them again for if that person chooses that. And it just gives a different angle to things. It gives them information that they don't need to wait for the interview to actually hear. So for them, it's like, wow, I get to know a little bit more about this person. These questions are important to me. I can understand where they might fit into my organization, craft an interview process that is going to be more bespoke for that individual, hits on things that are really important to them. So it's, it is just another layer of information for them if presented in the right way. We believe we present it in the right way, in a very quick, easy to understand, easy to respond to format, and move on. Again, these video assessments are typically like 5 minutes. And so if you can get 15 minutes, if you're interviewing or you're assessing 3 candidates, 15 minutes of your time, every hiring manager has found value in that process, because they can see the response or hear the response of the individual.
Now, this is a technology product, obviously. Sometimes technology products come with a certain amount of mischief. It's unintended, or something the user just doesn't quite go about things the right way. What kind of mischief can an employer run into with these kinds of systems?
Well, I think that, the mischief, the challenges, in terms of this technology it's fairly new. And so I think what we see is, while there's a lot of willingness on the candidate side and even the hiring manager side to use the technologies, there may not be the underlying process in the organization to utilize it in the most efficient way to start, right? So you need to build some muscle memory with it. The mischief comes in, are you asking the right questions, right? And so there could be a period of trial and error. We try to eliminate that just based on experience and working with clients to do that. But there could be some trial and error in there that they may not be getting out of it exactly what they want. And they need some time to hone those questions, to zero in on the things that are really important to the organization. Because remember, we're moving from, a very, if this is even a word, a dispersonalized experience, an applicant tracking system. Submit your information, goes into a black box. There are 100 people, there are 1,000 people, there are 10,000 people that applied to this role. We're basically gonna pick the top 10 and roll through them until we find, the next 10, until we find the right person. Now, with all this information coming in, it definitely can take some time to understand that process at the employer side of things needs to change a little bit. And hiring managers typically haven't been given the opportunity to participate at that level. Now we're giving them an opportunity to really collaborate with the recruiter, giving them a tool to make that conversation, what they're really looking for, more meaningful. And so crafting those questions, the mischief is maybe you're not asking the right questions and you're kind of getting some responses that may not resonate. That's not on the candidate. That's going to be on the organization. So it may take some time to do that. On the candidate side, as people, even though people are willing to look at this, and candidates are willing to use this technology, it's going to be a little new for them. And so the mischief comes in. We see simple things like somebody, saying, can I take it back? Because I had a picture of my dog in the background. I don't know if that was appropriate for the employer, right? Other employers saying, we're a pet food company. Like, please show us a picture of your pet and tell us about your pet. Like, that's literally an assessment question from one of our clients that's a pet food company. They want to know how passionate you are about that. So, it's the mischief can come in that, with personality, with that persona might come some things that are unexpected, but mischief isn't always a bad thing. And it can make the organization really rethink the way that they're evaluating these candidates in a positive way, because they're seeing things that they've never seen before, not even in an interview process, because the interview process tends to be a little bit, nerve-wracking for the candidate, maybe even for the hiring manager, because they're under so much pressure, the candidate, because they really want that job. This is a little bit more unassuming while getting some important information. So a little bit here and there on both sides. So I think, for both sides, mischief can be defined by what the candidate is submitting. That can be a little bit more playful or show a little bit more personality. And on the hiring manager or on the employer side, it's really how to intake that information in meaningful ways, because you may be seeing a side of the candidate that you might never see in the interview process. How do you assess that? And this is, again, where we see thousands of these assessments on a weekly basis, and we can work with clients to say, this is what you can expect to see from people that are giving you a video assessment on asking these questions on this role. And so here's how to evaluate that. Here's how to make it part of your process and make that assessment meaningful to your process and to better represent the candidate. So it takes some work for sure.
Okay. Well, Cliff, thanks very much for taking the time to talk today. It was great.
Thank you for having me.
My guest today has been Cliff Jurkiewicz, the Vice President of Global Strategy for Phenom. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. We're a publication of Recruiting Daily. We're also a part of Evergreen Podcasts. To see all of their programs, visit www.evergreenpodcasts.com. And to keep up with HR technology, visit the HCM Technology Report every day. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.hcmtechnologyreport.com. I'm Mark Pfeffer.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts. We out.
Faith in the news media has been challenged, making it even harder to get stories told. The Friday Reporter podcast was created to help audiences better understand the media by hosting journalists who will answer the questions to which we need answers. Join me every Friday to hear more.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.